there, and welcome to The Piping Show. My name's Andrew Bova, and I'm very pleased to be your host this week, where we are joined by Jenny Hazzard. Jenny's a prolific soloist and bandsperson, and is one of my fellow members of Field Marshal Montgomery Pipe Band. If you don't know, we're running a competition on our YouTube channel. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to this channel, where we not only have The Piping Show, but concerts and tips and tricks it's worth subscribing to. Just click the button. It's right there. Once you've subscribed, you're entered to win. If you're already subscribed, you're already entered. The details of the competition, I believe, are here. Without any further ado, let's go to Helen for this week's news.
The Newton Stewart and Minnegaff Traditional Music and Dance Festival will take place on Saturday the 8th of July. Solo piping entries are now open, so you register by the 3rd of July to take part. You can find out the entry form and more information at www.tradmusic.com. The Singapore and Southeast Asia Pipe Band Championships will take place on the 3rd and 4th of June. It's their first event for 3 years. There will be solo piping on the 3rd of June and pipe bands on the 4th. Entries are now open, and you can find out more at their Facebook page. The National Piping Centre's Surrey School has extended the registration deadline until Friday the 24th of March. You can join this school from the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. There will also be a public recital by the teachers on the school, who are our Director of Piping, Finlay MacDonald, and the 9-time Glenfiddich champion, Willie McCallum. Tickets and information are available at www.thepipingcentre.co.uk. The National Youth Pipe Band of Scotland's 20 Years Young concert will take place on Sunday the 2nd of April at the Usher Hall in Edinburgh. It will feature performances by their 3 national ensembles and special guests Ross Ainsley and Ali Hutton. Tickets are available now, and there's a special rate for under 25s of just £5.50 a ticket. You can find out more at nypbs.co.uk.
Hello there. 2 weeks ago on this show, I mistakenly called Duncan Johnston's Volume 1 of the Scots Guards the first edition of the Scots Guards. That got me thinking, and I remembered that we do have a first edition of the Scots Guards in our collection. So I thought today we'd take a look at that. So here we have a first edition of the Scots Guards. The most notable difference between this and current editions is you'll notice at the bottom, it doesn't say Volume 1, because at the time of its publication in 1954, it was the only volume of the Scots Guards. If we take a look at the inside cover, we can see that this book was a gift from the Robertson Highland Pipe Band to a W. Speedy. I did a little bit of research on this Robertson Highland Pipe Band and found that they were active down in England near London and were founded by J.B. Robertson, the famous solo competitor and pipe major of the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guards. Now, J.B. Robertson might need no introduction, but suffice to say that he was an incredibly successful solo competitor, winning both gold medals, as well as 9 former winners MSRs at the Argyllshire Gathering in Oban. I mentioned he was the pipe major of the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guards. He was there from 1932 to 1941, and he was succeeded by William Speedy, who was the pipe major from 1941 to 1943. There were a large number of contributors to this collection when it first came out, 2 of the most notable of whom would be Archibald Campbell of Kilberry, as well as Pipe Major Willie Ross, who was also a Pipe Major of the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guards for 12 years, from 1905 to 1917. And they included a pibroch in this book, salute to Pipe Major Willie Ross, as a thank you for his efforts. Since its first publication, the book has gone through no fewer than 14 editions, and I spent some time with one of the newer editions to compare and contrast and see what differences I could find. I count no fewer than 8 new tunes that have been added to the book, as well as a number of things that have been shifted around. So, for example, in this first edition, we can see, after your foreword, bits about the band. It goes straight into the index of tunes. In more modern editions, this index of tunes is in the back of the book. And something that I found quite interesting is that in the back of this copy, something that was removed from subsequent copies, is a small political cartoon. This book is a part of our rare and valuable book collection, and is kept under lock and key. However, it is available if you'd like to come in and do some research on a first edition of the Scots Guards. Jenny, thanks for coming early before a band practice.
Thank you for asking. Good to be here.
Really good to have you here. A bit odd to be sitting and having a chat, not in Belfast Airport over a pint of Guinness after a practice. Yeah. So just thinking about your sort of getting into piping, you're like me, a transplant to this country, an immigrant. So originally from Toronto. No, not was it Toronto?
Yeah, suburban Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. How did you get into piping?
Well, it was a complete accident. Is the truth. I have no piping or any like kind of Highland Arts Scottishness in my family or background at all. The only thing that drew me towards it was my best friend when I was 5, who lived down the street, had a Scottish dad who put her into Highland dancing classes, and I thought that looks fun, and so got into Highland dancing. Had a fantastic teacher called May Mackenzie in Toronto. Was just lucky, to get a good teacher who kept us all engaged. So got involved in dancing, started going to competitions in the Highland Games. I have 2 older brothers who got dragged along to them and saw the piping and the drumming, thought, well, we're here, we might as well maybe have a go at that. And again, just terrific luck. My mum went into a Highland shop in Toronto, like the kind of shop that sells kilts and stuff, to ask about piping teachers. And there was a little business card on their bulletin board that was Michael Gray.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he would have been, I don't know, like 19, 20 years old or something at the time. Was doing some teaching, raised some money. So my older brother, Jim, started going for lessons with Michael. And, as I say, we had no clue. It could have been anyone, it could have been somebody rotten. And I just got really, really lucky with that. And obviously a great teacher and a great friend and a very inspiring guy to go to lessons to. He was composing so much at the time and still is. And so, yeah, really inspired my brother. My other brother started playing the drums, got involved in the Downsview Junior Pipe Band, which Reid Maxwell was teaching the drums there, and it was a really active group of people, most of whom are still involved and I still kind of see. And so, yeah, long story short, I realised that my brothers were having a lot more fun playing pipes and drums than I was at that time. Dancing, I really enjoyed dancing, but kind of had to make a decision and decided to start learning the pipes, and was probably better at it than I was ever going to be at dancing too. So yeah, just got involved, and through really lucky with a dancing teacher, really lucky with a piping teacher, really lucky with the first kids pipe band that we got involved with, and it just became a huge part of our lives for the whole family.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, right? Because anytime you speak to people from North America and, how'd you get into piping? The assumption is always, I have, a grandfather from Scotland, or like a dad, or, a mom who's a Highland dancer. I never knew that.
No.
It's actually, I didn't, I've got no connection to piping through my family. My grandfather or great-grandfather maybe played. Yeah, it's just like lucky happenstance, and luck is the right word, where you just find yourself in the right place at the right time, and well, look at us now, living here and doing what we do.
I wouldn't have met my husband, I wouldn't have moved to Scotland if I wasn't best friends with Becky Bell at age 5. And
Becky, if you're watching, thank you kindly. It's interesting, I never knew you got lessons off Mike. I mean,
right
one more.
Day one, like from the scale onward, everything, yeah.
I would posit the argument that Mike's got to be one of the most influential people in pipe bands, certainly within living memory. And that's just one more sort of feather in his cap, I suppose. So now you played in the Frasers.
Yep.
Was that your first grade 1 band?
Yeah, it was. So the Downsview Kids band, as I say, was a great time, which actually folded, and my brothers and I went to Town and Newmarket pipe band, a grade 2 band, for a while, and it folded. Starting to get, I'm not taking offence, but get the idea. And then, because it folded at an inopportune time in the season, we actually went and played with the Glengarry Pipe Band in Eastern Ontario for the one season, and it was kind of meant to be that one season because it was kind of too late to go and join the 78 at that time, but that was the plan, and that is ultimately what happened. But that was a fantastic season, and made some lifelong friends at Glengarry for that year. But then went to play with the 78.
When were you in the Frasers?
So I joined in 1992. Makes me sound very old, which I kind of am.
Hardly.
So 92 to 99, I was there for those eight seasons. Yeah.
That's a really, I mean, I studied that period of the band for my PhD. It's such an interesting time in all of pipe bands, largely driven by the Frasers, and just thinking about some of the things you would have been involved with, like the walking song medley, or like the walking the plank. Now, the walking song medley, that like, I have to ask you about it, right? Like, what was it like being in? So for anybody at home who doesn't know the story behind this, the Frasers played a medley that started with a walking song, which is quite a slow tune. And
it wasn't the average 2-3 pace rolls at a certain beats per minute, and I'm pretty sure that the rule was instituted that it has to be 2-3 pace rolls at a certain beats per minute because of that.
In 1995.
That's what happened, yeah.
Sometimes correlation equals causation. Yeah. So what was it like playing in the band for, things like that, or like, again, the two that jump to mind are the Walking the Plank medley or the Walking Song medley. What was it like being in a band, or that band at that time when there was so much musical innovation happening?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting because, I was young when I joined. I think I would have been 16 or 17 when I first joined the band, so I didn't really have a clue, and I knew Michael, and I knew, the Ontario scene, you know what it's like, it's quite tightly knit, and I knew the guys. I think I probably know, looking back at it, how special it was, more than I probably did at the time. At the time, I just thought it was great. This is great music. It's good fun. I enjoy playing it, and it was exciting. But yeah, if you think about the cast of players, but the cast of imaginative people coming up with, composing and arrangements, like Michael and Bruce, and John Walsh was still there, Jim McGilvery, Bill obviously himself, and there's lots of people I'm probably forgetting that will be insulting to not mention, but you know what I mean. There was a lot happening, and a lot of excitement, and a lot of good stuff that was going on. So yeah, it was just good fun, really. Good learning, I think, for a young piper to be involved with. And I think something that we forget as well now is, in those days, pipe corps were a lot smaller. So I think the first year that I played in 92, I think that we played at the Worlds with, it was either 12 or 14 pipers. It might have been 12. Like, I say 12, and that sounds like, no, surely it can't be, but I think it actually was.
Yeah.
I think it was 12 pipers. And so it was a small group to be in amongst and get to learn from those guys. So yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. And so then, jumping forward in history, but still about the Frasers, you were a part of the 87 Live in Ireland concert at Celtic Connections.
Yeah.
And what was that, 2016?
2016, and then in Belfast in 2017.
That's right, yeah. So how did you end up getting involved with that? And then what was it like to be, I mean, that's such a moment in history in piping, to be a part of that. What was that like? Yeah,
well, that's exactly it. For me, probably my kind of age and era of piper, anyone who's around my age will probably all say the same thing about that album when it came out. It was just, had it on all the time, learned every tune, knew all of it. And it was exciting at that time, and that was slightly before I joined the Frasers, but not that much before. So there was still, I think we did actually play Journey to Skye at something later, and some of the other things. So I knew a lot of the stuff, I knew a lot of the guys that were involved. My involvement was 100% Mike Gray. I remember we met for lunch in Toronto when I was visiting at some point a couple of years before that, and he told me that he had this idea, and what did I think? And I remember saying, yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like it would be just a really good thing, and something that people would enjoy listening to and going to see. So yeah, got involved, and in a way that, you know, the way these fate things go, that kind of changed my life again, because that concert in Glasgow then led to the concert in Belfast, which led to a bit of a boozy chat with Jonathan Greenlees about, you know, do you ever think about, now the Spirit of Scotland had just finished in 2016, we played in 2016, so I wasn't playing with a band, I didn't really have any intention of playing with a band again, but got talking with Johnny about, he just told me about Field Marshal and about, you know, how it works, and you know, what a good bunch it is, and kind of planted the seed and in my mind, and thought maybe I could give it a go, and so yeah, have loved every minute of that.
Yeah. Well, and here we are, watching the clock, being aware we have to get to practice here shortly. But so how did you end up then moving to Scotland? Yeah,
good question. So my husband Colin McClellan and I met and got married in Canada, and at the time that we got married, it wasn't really in the plans to move to Scotland. He's from here, obviously. He's from Edinburgh, grew up here, spent 22 years in Canada, and when we got married, it wasn't with the intention that we would definitely come back here, but just kind of the way life goes. I think we talked about things and we thought about things and thought, well, maybe we should give it a try. There was a pull for him, home and family and history, and there was a pull for me with piping and, you know, just being here in the centre of everything. And I'd been here a lot and enjoyed it, and thought, well, we'll give it a try. So we actually, this sounds really corny, but we said if we were going to move, if there was one place on earth that we wanted to be on New Year's Eve 1999 becoming 2000, we wanted it to be Edinburgh. And so we thought that was our plan. We came to the Worlds in 99 and just stayed. We didn't go home after the Worlds in 99. And then on New Year's Eve I was sick, and we lived in Glasgow, and we never went to Edinburgh. We went out in Glasgow instead.
You know, game's a bogey, just go back. Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to ask you about, we've spent a lot of time talking about your band experience and questions that, frankly, I probably should have asked you already. But when you're sitting after a practice having a pint, like you
is that
solving,
a GD&E in that bit?
Yeah, trying to solve all of piping's problems, you don't always get the chance. You're so busy. Like, you've got so much going on. You know, you're a hugely successful solo player. You know, a silver medalist. Was it 1999?
99. Yeah. That was a big year.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And then you're also a director at a what is it?
It's like an environmental energy
all I can think was a college, an environmental consultancy company. And you're also a very avid runner.
I am,
doing marathons.
Yeah, I'm training for London right now, so that's
so.
part of why I'm knackered all the time. Yeah.
Right. As a general question, how do you balance all of that?
Sometimes not that well. If you ask my husband Colin this week in particular, he would probably say I'm doing a rotten job of that this week. He tells me I overdo it, and he's right. But I don't know. I just try and fit it all in, and things do take priority, and sometimes something has to give, you know. And I think that's when I am overdoing it, and I think, right, something's got to give, and just accept that and say, don't feel bad about not doing this or not finishing that this week, or be able to put something off. But I don't know, just
sheer force of will.
Yeah, just fire ahead and don't sleep enough.
I feel that sometimes. But anyway, we better get downstairs. We'll have a very angry Matt. Listen, thank you very much for coming early and doing this. It's been a real pleasure to sit and chat to you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.